Welcome to Snohomish Real Estate Insider, your go-to real estate podcast for agents, buyers, sellers, and investors. We dive into market trends, expert insights, and actionable strategies to help you succeed. Whether you're growing your business or making informed decisions, we've got you covered. Let's get started. Here's your host, Kevin Wick.
Welcome, Dave. I'm glad to have you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about your background and what has brought you here today.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting question when you talk about background because I kind of joke that I should have my own NASCAR jacket for things I've done in life. But what got me to finance, I think, is why we're here today. Yeah. So interestingly enough, I've always been in and around real estate. I love real estate. Back in, a while ago, I actually got recruited to a mortgage company. The guys who recruited me understood my background. They understood my business background, things like that. And so they recruited me to come in as a VP of strategic, can't remember the strategic projects.
Okay.
And in essence, what they had me come in was work on business development, recruiting, growth, some other things. But what it did is it gave me an opportunity to really look behind the curtain at how lenders work. And who really was doing the work and who wasn't doing the work and who was really good at it and who wasn't. And then after a year of kind of working through that, I went to him and said, you know what, guys, I think I've done what you've asked me to do. Because if you've ever owned a business, middle management is a really bad place to be. And so I just said, I just want to go do loans. And so that's what got me in the industry. I just really love helping people with money. And so that kind of got me into finance, and through a couple different things, I landed at Mount Pacific Bank, a bank that I helped start, ironically enough.
Wow.
And so that's kind of how I got into finance.
Okay. And so because of your background dealing with agents over the years, it was a natural progression as well, because obviously being a lender, your role is heavily favored or heavily working with agents. It's just that's your primary focus.
It is, and those are those strategic relationships and partnerships that evolve over time, and in a past life, I worked a lot with managing brokers.
Okay.
And it was a really interesting transition to go from the guy that the managing brokers would always call to the guy nobody wanted to talk to, and rebuilding that life, if you will, and really working through those relationships and understanding that, between lender and realtor, there's so much that kind of requires a coalescence of skills and understanding roles and responsibilities.
Right. That is one of the biggest thing is the team effort between a lender and a broker is so important, because as long as they work together, they can typically solve any problem that comes up. That's the reality. But a lot of times sometimes they have adversarial relationships, which doesn't make sense, but it happens.
Yeah, especially when both are commissioned.
Yeah.
And understanding, okay, forget the money.
Right.
We have a mutual client in the middle of all this, right? We have a relationship in the middle of this. And whether it's your first house or your 10th house, it's stressful.
Yeah.
And if your team is not on the same page, that stress just goes to another level.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And, and that's actually what we're here to talk about, is that client relationship and how to build that strong client relationship, because, once you develop that relationship and you're able to work with it, like you're saying, you get 5-10 transactions out of them over the course of their lifetime, which is, if you're doing the right things, that's going to make sense.
It is so true.
Yeah. So what do you think, what's your number one thing that you do to build a strong client relationship?
I think a lot of it comes back to just how I'm kind of wired to begin with. And I read this book years ago. It kind of frameworked a lot of it. But are you a servant to others, right? And so, that warm handoff is always great, and a cold handoff, okay. But when you get on that call with somebody and understanding that they may not know, right? They may not know where they're at or where they want to get to, and going deeper in those conversations. As a realtor, you spend a lot more face time, right? Sure. The realtor is the face. They're the ones who are doing a lot more physical hand-holding and showing houses and all that stuff. Even prior to COVID, I probably only actually met with 1 out of 10 clients.
Oh, really?
Even pre-COVID, which was pretty startling to me, really, because I'm like, this is a big money deal, right? This is a big adventure. This is a big expense, and this is a big stress and everything else. Why wouldn't you want to sit down? But people are busy.
Yeah.
Now, pre-COVID, everybody's busy. Post-COVID, it's interesting. I actually meet with more people now post-COVID because I think people are like, no, I really want to meet people now. But pre-COVID, it was pretty rare to actually have someone who wanted to, because everybody wanted to be in a hurry, right? I mean, deals are moving in, and we want to get, it's Thursday, and we want to be ready to buy a house from Friday.
Yeah.
And so, but for me, being able to be on a phone call, knowing that I'm not going to be face to face with someone, but understanding that my history and my background allows me to answer the unasked question. Right, to really help go a little deeper into the conversation, because once you get past, if you're a layperson, it's the first time you're looking at a house. What the one thing everybody tells you to look for? What's their rate? What's their rate? What's their rate?
Yeah.
I've been on the phone in the last, let's say last 2 days. I've had calls from clients I haven't talked to in a decade, and I've had clients, that we closed a year or two ago, or literally just closed, and they want somebody else to come talk to me. And what's interesting to me is they're random calls. I shouldn't say random. They're all different topics.
Sure.
Not one of them was about rate.
Right.
Yesterday's call was somewhat heartbreaking. I had worked with this client a couple years ago, and his mom had just died. And understanding the family dynamics, and he didn't know where to go with the conversation. He didn't know where to go. Like, she's died. My sister and I are at a loss of what we do with her property and how do we navigate, my stepdad and all these other things.
Yeah.
And because of the relationship and the conversation and the going deep that we had when we did his transaction, I became that trusted advisor that he could call me.
Yeah.
Right. And he just I knew you'd have some answers for me, and I didn't know where else to go. And I think that's the business can be very transactional. Right, there are definitely realtors and lenders out there who are very transactional.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, that one's done. Let's go get 10 more. That one's done. Let's go get another one. And for me, it's always been how I'm wired, is to go deeper. Right, I'd rather have one really good client than an opportunity to talk to 10 other people today and not be able to go deep. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So let me ask you this. So you brought up a good point. So you just talked about a situation where you've got that trust. Okay, you've built it. So how do you get there? So that's the thing I really want people to understand is, okay, so you've just met this person for the first time, whether it's an open house or, this person was referred to you by an agent. How do you build that deep bond so they call you and know at a very vulnerable time they can trust you?
I think that always is a tough thing. It's different if say one of your good friends who you've done business with for 20 years calls and says, hey, Susie and Jim are going to give you a call, right? That warm handoff is always amazing and always great. But if I'm sitting at an open house with a realtor and people are coming and going, it's so, quick or fast or whatever else. I think where we can make a lot of mistakes is making it about us, right? Like you really need to talk to me. You need to be working with me. You need to sit down with me.
Sure.
The reality is, it's their journey.
Right.
We're just helped to Sherpa their journey along. And I think one of the things that's helped me over time is really being empathetic to where they're at, like meeting them where they're at. Like even if I can't help you, I will find someone who can. Like, there's programs I don't do right now, and I literally got off a call on the way here, and I was very transparent with her. Listen, here's why I don't like that program. I don't like this one. Here's some things to think about. There is not a perfect program out there. They all have warts on them, but pluses and minuses. But there are programs that I can't do, but I'll guide you to someone who can, because that may be the way you have to go.
Right.
But understanding that every time that happens, that conversation comes back in tenfold.
Yeah.
Right, that conversation comes back because they're understanding that just because I couldn't help them, I was still able to help them.
So what I'm hearing you say is, to try to pinpoint it a little bit, is find ways to be honest with them, and kind of break the ice by going, I appreciate where you're coming from. What about this? And then just breaking it to them that this is a great situation or this isn't a great situation. Let me tell you why.
Right.
You're making it about them, and then building that trust by going, that is a great program or that isn't a great program. Let me tell you why, and then expand upon that like that.
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was with you or with somebody else, but the phrase, we all want to do business with people we know, like, and trust, right? And I think the part of your leading question was, how do you get people to know you? Right? Because the other ones should come along, but how do you get people to want to know you?
Yeah.
right? And it's things like this, things that give you exposure, right? And being honest, for the public so they can see who you are.
Right.
I think, sincerity is an underrated word, right?
Yeah.
Be who you are, because you can't be everything to everybody. But, be a good person, be a servant to others, and I think some of that stuff just comes back, in tenfold.
Yeah. So now, what do you do to personalize your approach? What do you do? So you are at that open house with the agents. Let's stick with that topic from that perspective. So what do you do to personalize it?
Well, again, why are they there?
Okay.
Right? I mean, you're at an open house. Are you the neighbor just trying to checking out the house, or are you someone who's actively looking? And if you're actively looking, are you looking for this product? What are your obstacles? Where are you coming from? Like which part of this process are you familiar with or not familiar with? Where can we help you get to on your journey to really, again, come back to them?
So let's do this. Let's actually I'm not saying role play, but what kind of questions would you ask? They just popped in the door. The agent's busy with somebody else, and so you're there and you're going to take on how would you open that conversation up?
Well, I think if I'm there with the agent's busy, I'm going to hey, would you guys, she's busy or he's busy, would you like me to walk you around the house? I know some of the intricacies of this, this particular house, and some insight, some ideas of, what's going on in the market. Just here to be a tour guide.
Okay.
Right. None of us want to get attacked like on a used car lot.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so just understanding, people are people.
Yeah.
Right. And if you come out too heavy, too sharky, too whatever, you're an immediate turn. At least for me, you're an immediate turn off.
Yeah.
But being someone who will just be willing to help, like they're busy, let me walk you through the house. Let me show you some of the nicer things about this house, and then start talking about what's got them out looking. Where are they at? What's motivating them from where they're at?
Yeah.
Are they already in a house? Are they renting? Are they got kids on the way? That kind of thing.
And that's giving you the opportunity to ask all those pointed questions to find out more about them, so then you can discover what their needs are, which brings me to the next point, is how do you educate them? So now you've begin to know them, they begin to know you, so now you're at the point where they're going to actually listen to you. So now how do you educate them?
So back to those same questions, like where are we at with you guys today? Like where's the data taking us, right? And we can have a really light conversation and kind of go those next steps. But understanding where you're at with a light conversation may not be the same place you're at when we get the data. Yeah. Right. So data is a king, right? Okay. If once we have the data, we'll know which path you can really go down. What's driving you? Where do you want to get to, and how can I help you get there? Yeah. Because that's the key. And again, listening for the unasked questions. I mean, with my background in real estate, my background as a whole allows me to have a lot of different conversations, and understanding that. I say this all the time when it comes to closings. Pizza and beer is top of mind, because on a Saturday in the future, there is pizza, beer, and family helping you move. Yeah. And if your lender misses a Friday closing, because everybody wants to close on a Friday instead of Thursdays. Thursdays are a great day to close. Sure. But if for some reason the pizza and beer doesn't happen on Saturday, everybody's looking to the lender. Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. And back to that relationship. If you have a good relationship with the broker's defending you, hopefully, because 99% of the time it's out of your control. So,
and that is the case. And that's, again, where those relationships come in strong. And ideally, those relationships, you're bouncing back and forth throughout that time frame. And everybody's on the same page, and everybody's pushing the same buttons to get to pizza and beer day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that partnership cannot be understated.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Now, what do you do to stay in communication with people? What's your consistent communication that you have?
Well, the funny thing for me is, I mentor a lot of small business people or startup business people, and the number one tool we have in our toolbox is literally our phone. Okay. Right? And it's amazing to me how many businesses, big or small, just don't pick up their phone. And to me, that it builds anxiety. So I've always been one to answer my phone. So regardless whether it's a weekend or whatever else, unless I'm in a movie or on a plane, or it's I've answered the call at 10 o'clock. But typically most people honor boundaries. But the reality is, if you're either in the buying process or you've got something under contract, or even if you've just closed, there's some anxious moments going on. So number one for me is answer my phone. Okay. But as far as outgoing communication, I'm always the first one to either pick up the call and say, hey, we got something we got to jump over, or we're looking great. Appraisals happen, closings happen, and hey, make sure you get your funds transferred, a day and a half early. Let's not wait to the last minute to get money in. Let's make sure we're hitting all the high points.
Yeah.
But I'm typically try to stay in focus both with the realtors, listing agent, buyer's agent, and obviously the client throughout the process.
Yeah. So now, what kind of mistakes can happen through the process that are kind of consistent, that happen over and over again?
The things that we build into process control, because I'm very process driven.
Okay.
Years ago we had certain emails that would go out to put everybody on alert. Hey, we are ordering the appraisal. Will you go make sure that the hot water tank is strapped and there's CO monitors? These are the simple things that you would think everybody would be in our industry.
Oh yeah.
And how many times did we have to send an appraiser back out, and it was $150 because nobody bothered to check to see whether the tank was strapped?
Yep. And then that $150 becomes an issue because buyer doesn't want to pay for it, seller doesn't want to pay for it, agents definitely don't want to pay for it. So
yeah. So that's just one of those simple things. But things that happen on a buyer and lender relationship, kind of side stream. What's your source of down payment funds? Are they legit? Did you really just go to the Mariner game and fill out a credit card application? We're buying a house. That's not allowed. Or I had one client who's a really great old guy, but he just didn't understand why he could not buy a brand new car before he closed.
Yeah.
And and again, as much as we put it in an email, as much as we talk about these things, this stuff still happens like that.
I know those are what are the 10 commandments that thou shalt not do before closing?
Yes, thou shalt not.
Go buy furniture, empty your bank account.
I didn't buy it. I just filled out the paperwork. It's going to come after closing.
Or mattress money all of a sudden appearing in bank accounts. Yeah.
All those little things that you have those conversations with your clients up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. Now, what's one thing that you'd give for an agent? What's one piece of advice for them selecting a lender to kind of work with? So, what questions should they be asking a lender to make sure they're compatible to work together?
I think I come back to the phone.
Okay.
Right. The cell phone becomes the tool in the toolbox, and I always challenge the realtors I work with, or not the ones I'm really working with, but the ones I'd like to work with.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I don't know your client. Have them call me with a question, whenever, and see if I answer my phone. Right. Because if I will answer the random call, I'm answering yours.
Yeah.
But every lender should have the basics down. Can you close on time? Right? Yes, you should be able to close on time. Are you walking my client through the process? Absolutely. Do you have competitive rates? You should have competitive rates. The basics should be there. Are you the kind of lender that my client will have a relationship with, that we can go forward and they'll be comfortable?
Right.
Or are you going to hand my client off to someone who's an order taker, and I'm going to be talking to them throughout the process when things come up? Mm-hmm. That to me is a big thing, is that relationship is a three-way relationship. And are we all in this together to get to closing? Yeah. Because the rest should just be non-negotiables.
Back to creating a partnership, not just to order. I like it, being an order taker is important to realize. So
yeah. Like I tell people, I mean, yes, I work for a bank, but I don't have banker's hours. Yeah. If your client is, hey, I found an internet lender and they're going to offer me this, just be careful.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Because I want you to. The challenge would be try to get a hold of them on a Saturday afternoon.
Well, it's always about service. I mean, the reality of every industry that you're in, service is the primary focus that you always should be focused on.
Yeah. If you go look at my reviews, the reviews don't say he knows everything about everything in the mortgage space. Mm-hmm. It says I communicate, solve problems if they come up, and I'm there for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, your reviews brings me to another thought process I have. You talk about you're kind of old school because you're saying, just call me, just be on the phone. But in reality, you're kind of technology advanced as well because of your YouTube channel, your reviews that you have. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? How you touch people in the digital realm of things?
So back I think it was like 2017. Prior to a lot of what we see today, I was like, how do I'm having the same conversations over and over and over and over again. So how do I get this message out to others? So I created that YouTube channel to basically cut up 2-minute increments on the mortgage process. just to inform people. Again, being a servant to others. Like, hey, it's out there. It's free. This is me every day. This conversation I have every day. Here's what credit does. Here's what credit can do. Here's the down payment programs we have available. Here's what a VA looks like. Here's the home buying process. Hey, investor, here's what the investment side looks like. You're living in your house and you want to buy the next one. Here's what that looks like. Here's what you should have when you move in. And some of them are funny. The vast majority are very informative, because I think we don't know what we don't know. And if we don't know these things, we don't know what to ask. So even if they're not working with me as their lender, understanding that there's information out there that then when they do sit down with their lender or have them on the phone, they can ask these questions and see what they know. So that's kind of what got me there. I grew up, kind of the same generation where, we had phones that had a long cord. It was 40 foot long, all the way to where we're at today, where we have cell phones and, computers and technology. And so I've always been one to embrace technology. And I think that helps keep us young. It helps us keep us relevant. The reviews, I think, just add social credit. Because, it's not me telling people what I do.
It's the people that you work with tell people that you've done well for them and you would use them again.
Right.
So, because what are you up to, 130 something?
Should be 140 today.
140 5-star reviews. That's amazing. That's excellent.
Yeah. It's thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all to my clients.
Yeah. So, well, you've definitely done the work to make it happen. So, and your reputation, I've just recently met you, so it's just been the last year that I've gotten to know you. And so, but your reputation from the agents that work with you definitely precedes you, which is amazing. And so, and that's what it's all about. So, which is great. So,
thank you.
Now, why don't we do this? Why don't we kind of finish things off by, let's give advice to, lenders or agents and trying to build that relationship, because that's what we're talking about, is agents and stuff like that, not necessarily buyers or sellers.
Right. So I think the like when you find a partner that you can work with, whether it's a lender finding a realtor finding a lender, go deep in the conversations, right? Understand each other's roles and responsibilities where you feel partnerships are tough. Right? I mean, partnerships, people have marriages fall apart, right? People who go into business, been lifelong friends, fall apart. Realtor-lender relationships fall apart. But usually it's because of miscommunication or lack of communication. So really sit down and understand what the handoffs are, understand what the roles are, understand what your expectations are. If I'm a realtor, I want to know that if I call my lender on Saturday night because, I need a question answered, or literally we want to make offers by Monday, understanding that the call gets answered or there's an understanding of what will happen. From the lender side, understand that the realtor's having these tough conversations with their clients about what the process looks like, where they're at as far as the buying process goes, if they're trying to do something before they have the data. Right. It's good to get those relationships started, but really understanding that the data is going to drive all the future success. And I've worked with clients for a couple of years before they were successful, right? But me and that realtor carried them for a couple of years to get them there. So I'm not sure if I answered the question directly.
You did. I understand where you're coming from. I guess another important aspect to realize too is back to getting to know people. You've got to be the number 2 or number 3 lender to be able to be in place to get to know them. And just like agents, agents should be asking you for business just as much as you should be asking us for business from that standpoint as well.
Right.
And so,
and it's every, as the realtor typically is the face, but as a lender, we get those opportunities sporadically that come up, and understanding that not every realtor is going to fit every situation.
Right.
Like if I have a deal down in Tacoma, I don't want my Mount Vernon referral partner having to do that, but my Mount Vernon referral partner may have a really good partner that they have down in Tacoma. Right. And understanding their bandwidth and understanding their capabilities helps me understand that. Like I work with some of your great people here, John L. Scott. Some have been friends of mine for a long, long time, and understanding that they're amazing at what they do, but there's some fortes that they have that are really strong that may not fit what they want to, the client may not fit what their focus is.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, understanding that they may have a business partner or they may have another referral partner, or just being able to look at your sphere of influence and say, I think this would be a really good fit.
Yeah.
A prime example, I'm dealing with a lot of divorcing couples right now.
Okay.
Divorcing couples come with a lot of baggage, and understanding that if you've got a realtor who's never been through a divorce, right, they may not be your first go-to.
Sure.
Right? They may not understand the baggage that comes with divorce or kids or of a divorce or whatever else. And so just understanding that those referrals can happen, to make sure there's good fits.
Yeah. No, I actually was just on a recruiting appointment last week, and one of the conversations we're having was divorce, because she's focusing on working with divorced couples because it is a complicated transaction to navigate.
It is.
So,
You got departing residents. I got certified years ago, because you have the house spouse and the departing spouse, and then you got kids and school districts, and are we keeping the house? And there's just a lot of things to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, good, Dave. It's been great talking to you, getting to know you a little bit better. I'm glad that we had this conversation. Why don't we do this? Why don't you tell the audience how to get a hold of you, how to get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you and find out more?
Pretty simple. Cell phone's always the easiest. And if you don't have it or you don't catch it, Kevin will have it. But 425-754-2561. You can go to Zillow and find me on the review pages. You can go to YouTube and find me under Monopoly in Real Life, Gardner VP Mag. And you can Facebook friend me. I'm all over the place, so
Right on.
easy to find.
Well, good. Well, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks for the time, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning into the Snohomish Real Estate Insider podcast. Tune in next week for more market trends, expert insights, and actionable strategies. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.